You don't make $100 million by working harder. You don't even make it by being smarter. And most of the time, you don't make it by getting lucky. You make it by understanding a system most people don't even realize they're inside. A system where $1 quietly multiplies into 100 million. And almost no one sees it happening. Let's start with something that sounds small. $1. Not 1,000, not a million. Just one. Because the people who end up at $100 million don't start with big money. They start with a loop. A very specific loop. And once they enter it, everything changes. Here's the part that feels wrong. If you take $1 and try to turn it into $100 million by saving or working, you'll fail. Not because you're lazy, but because the math doesn't work. Even if you saved $1,000 every month for 40 years, you wouldn't get close. So the game clearly isn't about saving. It's about scaling. And scaling doesn't happen linearly. It happens in jumps. The first jump is the hardest, going from $1 to $1,000. This is where almost everyone gets stuck. Because at this stage, money only comes from effort. Time for money. Skills for money. Small trades. Freelance work. Selling something, anything that someone values. And it feels insignificant. But something important is happening here. You're not really building money, you're building proof. Proof that you can create value from nothing. And that proof is what unlocks the next level. From $1,000 to $100,000, the game shifts. Now it's not just about working, it's about systems. Instead of getting paid once for your effort, you start getting paid multiple times. A product instead of a service. An audience instead of a client. A small business instead of a job. This is where people start to see momentum. But it's also where most people slow down again. Because building systems is uncomfortable. It requires patience without immediate rewards. And most people go back to what feels safe. Trading time for money. But the few who don't enter the real loop. Value, money, assets, more value. They take the money they earn and they don't spend it. They use it to buy or build assets. Things that work without them. A business that runs. Equity in something growing. Leverage. Now the game changes again. Because money is no longer tied to time. It's tied to ownership. From $100,000 to $10 million, the growth stops looking human. This is where compounding starts to feel unfair. A business grows 20%. Then 30%, then doubles. An investment 10 times over a few years. And suddenly, the numbers stop making intuitive sense. But here's the uncomfortable part. It's not random, it's math. When you own something that scales, even small improvements create massive outcomes. A product that reaches 1,000 people becomes 10,000, then 1 million. And you don't have to work 1 million times harder. The system does it for you. This is why most people never get here. Because the early stages feel slow, and the later stages feel unreal. So they assume it's luck. But if you zoom in, it's just the loop repeating. Value, money, assets, more value. Over and over again. Each cycle getting bigger. Each decision compounding. Now comes the final jump. From 10 million to 100 million. This is where the game becomes almost invisible. At this level, people aren't just building businesses. They're controlling leverage, capital, networks, distribution at scale. They don't ask, how do I make money? They ask, where does money naturally flow, and how do I own a piece of that? And once you're there, growth accelerates again. Not because you're doing more work, but because you're positioned inside systems that are already growing. But here's the part no one likes to talk about. This loop cuts both ways. The same system that builds massive wealth can also trap you. If you never move past trading time for money, you stay in the smallest version of the loop. If you spend everything you earn, you never build assets. If you avoid risk completely, you never access scale. And slowly, invisibly, you fall behind. Because the truth is, money isn't just about effort, it's about position. Where you are in the system, what you own, what works for you when you're not working. And once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Every wealthy person isn't just earning more. They're playing a different game entirely. A quieter one. One that doesn't look impressive in the beginning, but becomes unstoppable over time. So the real question isn't, how do you make $100 million? It's much simpler and much more uncomfortable. Where are you in the loop right now? And are you actually moving forward, or just moving in circles?